The job offer did not say nanny. It said Executive Childcare Consultant, travel availability required. Joaquín Lara read it 3 times before deciding it was not a joke. The salary had 2 more zeros than he had ever earned taking care of children, which made sense because Joaquín had never worked professionally in childcare. What he did have was a 6-year-old daughter named Renata and 4 years of practice being the only responsible adult keeping her alive, fed, and reasonably happy. The company posting the position was Velastica Logistics. The CEO's name was Camila Ferreira. And according to the job description, she needed someone capable of accompanying a 7-year-old girl during a period of intensive corporate travel, with demonstrable experience in real childcare, not theoretical childcare. Joaquín had no certifications. What he had were 4 years of meal schedules calculated down to the minute, 2,000 nights of bedtime stories read aloud, and the very specific ability to know exactly what to say when a 6-year-old decides at 11 at night that she needs to talk about death. He applied anyway. The interview was the next day. Camila Ferreira's office occupied the 22nd floor of a glass building in the financial district. Joaquín arrived 10 minutes early, wearing the only tie he owned and carrying the uncomfortable certainty that he probably did not qualify for the position in any conventional sense. The assistant showed him in. Camila Ferreira was standing beside the window, speaking on the phone with the precision of someone who solves 3 problems simultaneously without losing track of any of them. She hung up when she saw him enter. Joaquín Lara. Yes. Your resume says you're a freelance accountant. It says nothing about professional childcare. Because I don't have professional childcare experience, Joaquín said. I have a 6-year-old daughter. Camila looked at him with renewed interest. Explain that. I have 4 years of experience doing exactly what your advertisement describes, just without the title. I know how to tell whether a child is tired or simply in a bad mood. I know how to explain why someone left without making it sound like abandonment. I know how to make math homework feel like a game instead of a punishment. He paused. I don't have a certificate for any of that because nobody certified me. I learned it because I had to learn it. Camila sat down behind her desk. Why do you need this job? Because my freelance accounting work pays enough for survival, but not enough for the medical expenses that are coming. My daughter needs developmental therapy twice a week, and the insurance only covers part of it. What kind of therapy? A speech delay. Nothing serious, but it requires consistency, and consistency costs money. Camila nodded slowly. My daughter's name is Valeria. She's 7 years old. Her father and I divorced 2 years ago, and he lives in another country. During the next 4 months, I have to travel constantly to finalize a merger that will determine whether this company survives or not. I can't take her on every trip. I can't leave her with a traditional nanny because traditional nannies last 2 weeks before quitting. Why do they quit? Camila looked directly at him. Because Valeria decided, after her father left, that she was never going to trust a new adult again. And she is very good at destroying the confidence of anyone who tries. Joaquín remained silent for a moment. And you think I can be different? I don't know if you can. But your resume tells me nothing useful, and the way you just answered my questions does. The real test came 3 days later, when Joaquín met Valeria for the first time. The girl was sitting in the playroom of Camila's apartment, a carefully decorated room that had clearly been designed by someone who paid an interior designer to make it look like the room of a happy little girl. Valeria did not look up when Joaquín entered. Hello, Joaquín said. I'm Joaquín. Valeria kept drawing. Are you going to be the next one who leaves? Joaquín sat down on the floor at a respectful distance, not directly in front of her but slightly to the side, the way someone sits who understands that they should not appear threatening. I don't know, he said. That depends on many things I can't control. Valeria looked at him for the first time. The others said they were going to stay forever. I'm not going to say that because it isn't true. Nobody stays forever. But I can tell you that while I'm here, I'm going to really be here. Not just physically. Valeria considered him with the specific seriousness of a 7-year-old girl who had learned to distrust big promises. What does that mean? It means that if I'm looking at my phone while you're talking to me, you can tell me, and I'll put it away. Valeria did not respond, but she also did not completely return to her drawing. After a moment, she pushed the drawing slightly toward him, not fully handing it over, just enough for him to see it. It was a badly proportioned dinosaur wearing a hat. "It's a dinosaur with a hat," Valeria said, as though the explanation were necessary. "I like the hat," Joaquín said. "Why a hat?" "Because its head gets cold." Joaquín nodded with complete seriousness, as though that explanation were perfectly logical, which for the purposes of that conversation, it was. The formal arrangement was that Joaquín would work 3 days a week caring for Valeria while Camila traveled, and that Renata, Joaquín's daughter, would come with him because he had no other childcare option available and because Camila, after briefly meeting her, had said there was no problem. "Are you sure?" Joaquín had asked. "My daughter needs someone to play with who isn't a screen," Camila had said. "Your daughter needs a place to be while you work. It solves 2 problems." What neither of them had anticipated was how quickly the 2 girls would become inseparable. Renata was 6 years old and possessed an energy that did not understand the concept of exhaustion until she literally fell asleep in the middle of a sentence. Valeria was 7 years old and carried the learned caution of someone who had been taught, unintentionally, that people leave. Instead of clashing, the combination fit together in ways that surprised both adults. Renata talked non-stop. Valeria listened non-stop. And at some point during the first week, Valeria started talking too. Not much, but more than Camila had heard her speak to any new adult in 2 years. The first crisis came during the second week, when Camila had to take an emergency flight to another city to resolve a problem with the merger regulators. It was Friday night. Valeria had a fever. Camila called from the airport, already at the boarding gate, her voice carrying the tension of someone divided between 2 urgencies that could not be solved at the same time. "How high?" 38.5. "It's not serious yet, but she's uncomfortable. Should I cancel the flight?" Joaquín listened to the sounds of the airport in the background. Announcements, the noise of hundreds of people moving toward different destinations. "What happens if you cancel?" "The merger could fall apart. 400 jobs depend on this." "Then don't cancel," Joaquín said. "I'll take care of Valeria. Call me when you land." There was silence on the other end. "Are you sure?" Camila asked. "Yes," Joaquín said. Her voice carried something different now. Not just gratitude, but the specific relief of someone who is not accustomed to being able to trust another person completely with something that matters this much. Joaquín took care of Valeria all night. He brought down her fever with warm compresses. He read her 3 stories when she couldn't sleep. Renata, who had stayed awake longer than she was allowed purely out of solidarity, sat beside Valeria's bed holding her own stuffed animal and offered it to her, so she won't be alone. Valeria accepted the stuffed animal. And for the first time since Joaquín had known her, she fell asleep without asking whether someone was going to leave. Camila arrived at 5 in the morning, still wearing her travel clothes, going directly from the airport to the apartment without even stopping at her own home. She found Joaquín asleep on the living room sofa, in the particular position that suggested he had sat down, just for a moment, several hours earlier, and exhaustion had won. The 2 girls were asleep in Valeria's bed, Renata's stuffed animal between them. Camila remained in the bedroom doorway a moment longer than necessary. Then she walked into the living room. She gently touched Joaquín's shoulder. He woke with the specific speed of a parent, completely alert in less than a second, immediately assessing whether something was wrong. "Is Valeria okay?" "She's asleep. Her fever went down." Camila looked at him. "Thank you. It's my job." "No," Camila said. "Your job was to take care of her. What you did was more than that." Joaquín did not respond immediately. "How did things go with the regulators?" "Good. The merger is still moving forward." She paused. "But I spent the entire flight thinking I had probably made the wrong decision." "You didn't." Camila looked at him. "How do you know that?" "Because you trusted the right person, which made the wrong decision impossible." Camila Ferreira had built Velastica Logistics from a small transportation business that her father left behind when he died 8 years earlier into a company that now competed with corporations 10 times larger. She was extraordinarily good at her job. She was, according to her own honest assessment during the rare nights she allowed herself to be honest, considerably less good at being the only responsible adult for a 7-year-old girl whose father had decided that distance was easier than presence. It wasn't that she didn't love Valeria. It was that love, she discovered, did not automatically come with instructions on how to braid hair properly or what to say when a little girl asks why her father no longer calls every day. Joaquín, without intending to, began filling those spaces. Not dramatically. Practically, daily, almost invisibly until enough small moments accumulated to become noticeable. He taught Camila, during a casual conversation in the kitchen while the girls watched a movie, how to braid Valeria's hair in a way that wouldn't come apart by mid-afternoon. "How do you know how to do this?" Camila asked, watching his hands. "I practiced on Renata for an entire year until I got it right. The first time it looked like I'd put a bird's nest on her head." Camila laughed, genuinely, which was not something she often did in front of someone who technically worked for her. "Can you teach me?" Joaquín taught her. It took 4 attempts. The 4th one turned out reasonably well. There was one afternoon when Valeria came home from school crying because another girl had told her that her mother was never around, and probably didn't love her that much. Camila, who had happened to come home early that day, heard this from the doorway before Valeria saw her. She froze for a moment, unsure what to do with the specific weight of that sentence. Joaquín, who was in the kitchen, walked over. "Can I tell you something?" he said quietly to Camila before she entered the room. "What?" "Don't tell her that you love her very much. She already knows that, and right now it won't help her to hear it again. Tell her something specific. Something that proves you know her, not that you love her. That's what she needs to hear right now." Camila looked at him. "How do you know that?" "Because when Renata feels insecure about whether I care, telling her I love you doesn't calm her down. Reminding her of something specific that only I would know about her does. Because that proves I'm paying attention, not just repeating a phrase." Camila walked into the room. She sat beside Valeria. "Do you know what I was thinking about on the plane last week?" Camila asked. "I was thinking that you're the only person who knows I hate the airport coffee in Houston but drink it anyway because I get nervous before big meetings. Nobody else knows that about me. Only you do, because you saw me do it that time we traveled together." Valeria stopped crying a little. "Why do you get nervous?" "You never look nervous." "Because I learned how to hide it." "But you noticed anyway. That means you know me better than almost anyone." Valeria stayed quiet for a moment. "Is that why you trust me with things?" "For that reason and 1,000 others," Camila said. "And the next time someone tells you I don't love you enough, you can tell them that I know the exact sound you make when you're pretending to be asleep but you're not. That's something only someone who truly pays attention would know." Valeria smiled, almost against her will. Joaquín, standing in the doorway, said nothing. But later Camila found him in the kitchen and said, without any preamble, "That worked because of what you told me. It worked because you already knew those things. You just needed to know how." The merger was finalized in week 12. It was a complete success. The board of directors celebrated, the 400 jobs were preserved, and Camila appeared in 2 business publications as an example of leadership under pressure. What the business publications did not mention was that, on the night the deal closed, Camila arrived at her apartment at 11 o'clock at night and found Joaquín in the kitchen finishing the dinner dishes from the girls' meal, with Renata asleep on the sofa because she had stayed up waiting to congratulate her and sleep had won before Camila arrived. Camila remained standing in the kitchen doorway. "It closed," she said. "I saw it in the news. Congratulations." "Thank you." A silence. "The contract ends in 2 weeks," Camila said. Joaquín did not stop washing the dishes, but something in his posture shifted slightly. "I know. Valeria is going to ask what happens next." "I've been wondering the same thing." Camila stepped fully into the kitchen. "What do I tell her?" Joaquín turned off the water. He dried his hands. "I don't know," he said. "But I do know that I don't want the answer to be that we stop coming." Camila looked at him. "Is that because of Renata or because of you?" Joaquín genuinely thought about it before answering. Both. Renata has never had a friend like this. And I've never had. He stopped. What? Someone to talk to at the end of the day about braiding hair and closing multimillion-dollar mergers in the same conversation without either thing seeming more important than the other. Camila laughed, but something remained in her expression after the laughter faded. That's exactly what I've never had either, she said. The crisis arrived 3 days later, when Valeria's father called, the first time in 4 months, announcing that he wanted Valeria to spend the summer vacation with him. Camila hung up the phone with her hands trembling slightly. Joaquín found her on the balcony, where she had gone without telling anyone. Are you okay? Her father wants to see her. After 4 months of silence, suddenly he wants to see her. Does that scare you? It scares me that she'll get excited and then he'll disappear again. Joaquín stayed silent for a moment. You can't control that, he finally said. The only thing you can control is being here when he isn't. And you're already doing that. What if it isn't enough? It will be enough because you decide that it is, every day, even on the days when it's difficult. He paused. I say that because I've had to make the same decision every day since Renata's mother left. Some days the decision is easy. Other days I have to make it even when I don't feel capable. Camila looked at him. How do you know it's worth it? Because Renata is okay. Not perfect, but okay. And that's enough proof that choosing to stay, every day, works even when it doesn't feel like enough in the moment. The contract officially ended on a Friday. Joaquín arrived that afternoon, as always, with Renata, not knowing exactly what to expect because nobody had explicitly discussed what would happen afterward. Camila greeted them at the door. I need to tell you something, she said before Joaquín could fully step inside. What? I don't want this to end like a contract that expired. I want it to become something we choose to continue, without a legal document forcing us to. Joaquín looked at her. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying that I want you to keep coming. Not because I pay you to do it, but because the girls need you, and she stopped. You what? I do too. The silence that followed had a different quality from all the ones before it. From inside the apartment came Valeria's voice shouting, Renata's here! And the sound of 2 girls running toward each other, completely unaware of the conversation the 2 adults were having at the doorway. Camila smiled despite the seriousness of the moment. This, she said, gesturing toward the sound of the girls laughing, is the family neither of us knew we needed. Joaquín nodded slowly. Then we don't need a contract for this. No. We only need to decide to keep showing up. I can do that. 6 months later, nobody in Camila's office knew exactly how to describe the arrangement when Joaquín appeared every Friday to pick up the 2 girls from school. Both of them, not just Renata, because at some point it had become normal for the 2 of them to live practically the same routine between 2 homes that no longer felt completely separate. Valeria's father called that summer. He came to visit for 2 weeks. It was, according to Valeria's later report with her usual honesty, good, but different from being with Dad Joaquín. Camila did not correct the title. One October night, while the 2 girls slept in the room that nobody called Valeria's room anymore but simply the girls' room, Camila found Joaquín in the kitchen, as always, finishing the dishes. She walked up behind him and, without saying anything, rested her head against his back for a moment. Joaquín remained still, his hands still in the water. Are you okay? He asked. I'm exactly where I want to be, Camila said. Which is new for me. I've never been able to say that with this much certainty about anything that wasn't work. Joaquín turned off the water. He turned around. Neither have I, he said. Until now. Outside, the city remained the city. Inside, in a kitchen that no longer belonged entirely to a single family but to 2 families who had decided, without any contract requiring it, to become one.